Can we have a roll call, please?
Compliance, that moving forward as more landscaping gets done. This is feeding back. Concern that this sort of incremental non-compliance with what was presented to the public is going to continue, especially with a chronically non-compliant vendor at the RV park. So what is planted there is a combination of at least two different species. And I know these intimately from my practice as a botanist. This is perennial ryegrass. This is most of what's planted on that mound.
Elvis.
And this is red fescue, also planted on the mound, but not exclusively a red fescue blend. And this is the invasive, conserving, non-native species that I'm concerned about. So what I want to emphasize then is just, and we're asking you to be the gatekeepers for compliance for this vendor, and you to, approve certain plans and execute those plans and not use common substitution practices in contracting as an end run around compliance.
And for the public, we have posted a detailed email from Chris Rogers on our website. We also have a response from our contractors and the people who did plant the grass as well. We also have an email from Jill Grant regarding the lighting at the RV park and the planting at the RV park or at the brand new bathroom, similar to what Chris Rogers was just talking about. Do we have any other public comment? Commissioner comments?
Not a botanist. Be great. They have taught me a lot about native grass. I thank you for coming on my personal story. I found this beautiful tree that would grow fast.
I think so.
And then I read it's prolifically. And so now I think that hire people who seem to know what they're talking about. We are not expert in the double correct plans by any means. And I think part of what talking about in a more general sense about training the heart. Your point into more of an education. Interplay between native plants. Strong, so much of our pollution or tunnels and become skunk and raccoon habitat and so I thank you for bringing this to our attention. And you heard from the previous speaker that can't please all the people all the time. And personally, I support asking the terms of safety on the beaches and the harbor. Us and much of the design at the is because Half Moon Bay was the permitting agent. Not us. We have to work with Half Moon Bay on this. And we've had to keep Half Moon Bay, the Planning Commission and the City Council take care. It's true for the other bathroom that costs so much. That's a lawsuit. Outside agencies who have a large say in what we do, particularly physically. And we're trying, this board, to turn the Princeton and Oyster Point harbors into educational centers, so can come here not just to buy fish, but to learn where the fish came from. And how much the intertime between the land and the ocean.
I'll try and use our big room voices. We had a comment from the public that they can't hear us too well.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, I'm done.
They can hear us now.
Oh, they can, good.
All right, commissioner comments?
I don't have any.
Commissioner Chang Karali?
Yeah, I just want everyone to remind everyone that the Dream On Car Show is happening this weekend on Sunday. It's by the Dream Machine. I think senior services.
So you can hear fine.
So
Big voice.
that's on Sunday, July 21st, starting at 10 a.m. at Pillar Point Harbor. And I'm excited to be there. I think it's the first time we're actually hosting, helping them host this. So just a reminder, if you're free on Sunday, that's going to be a good event.
And it goes to the seniors of the coast side, so
Senior service.
senior services. So please attend and bring all kinds of things. This is, I was sorry when it disappeared and I was devastated when Dream Machines disappeared. So come and support our local charities and outreach.
My comment is, sure, happy to see the Surfers Beach restroom finally open. I've seen a lot of people using it. It was great to see, as an example here, children using the shower. It's a beautiful facility. Very proud of that. One thing that's not very nice for the harbor is I see the harbor occupancy is down a little bit. And that's a result of fishing restrictions for both the commercial and recreational fishermen. It's a tough time to be in the fishing business. I've seen people that I personally know have moved to Alaska for better opportunity. And with the problems we have with managing our fisheries, the restrictions have just been too great for fishermen to go out and make a great living. So it's real tough on them. Comment? You
Nope,
okay?
nope.
Okay. All
I
right.
agree.
So that brings us to activity reports. General Manager Pruitt, do you have anything to add to your report that's posted?
Good morning, President Matusha. I just want to highlight some things I noted in the report. The Harbor District did finally receive the final permit for the Surfers Beach replenishment project. So the project is now green light all the way across, and we'll be beginning that project in the spring of 2025. We have to wait for the eelgrass growing season to start the mitigation before we can do the dredging. So next summer is going to be a busy time around the harbor for dredging and Surfers Beach. The restroom project, the restroom did open the Wednesday before 4th of July, which was our week before 4th of July. And it is heavily used every weekend and every holiday. That the trail is heavily used, and so is that facility. And not just for the restroom, but the showers, the seating, the bikes. It's a great place. And right now, a great place to watch whales jump off the coast. So that's all great news there. I met with the superintendent of the Monterey Marine Sanctuary and discussed the West Trail project, the Princeton by the Sea shoreline project, and the Surfers Beach project. In the long run, while we're doing this pilot project to see if rebuilding the Surfers Beach will work, we have to address the long-term effects of the damage caused by the breakwater, which has significantly increased the coastal erosion on Surfers Beach down past Murata Road, disappearing. And that's all because of the breakwater changing the currents and wave patterns in northern Half Moon Bay. Talked about adding our artificial structures out in the offshore enhancing the current reef that's out there to protect the coastline. They seem to be receptive of that idea, which was great, as long as we do it with natural materials and, of course, no plastics. So very supportive of everything we're doing here in northern Half Moon Bay in trying to enhance and save the coastline from damage caused by the federal structure. So that's great news. We're also working with Congress through NSU's office to get us on the Word of 2024 law. Right now, we're in the bill, but has to still be signed into law. And if we do get Pillar Point Harbor in that law, that comes with authority for the Army Corps to do a comprehensive study of the entire area to address everything I was just speaking of. And the funding would be federal dollars, not local or district or local county one funding or state funding, which is great news. So we're working towards that and we're moving forward with that. The Princeton by the Sea shoreline restoration project is moving forward. The Army Corps has done their initial study and it has passed the first hurdle of cost benefit analysis. So it's worth doing the project. Their next phase is to move into the design phase and come up with solutions to mitigate and prevent further damage. But before that, we have to do a cost share agreement with them. Our cost share should be minimal because the district didn't pay to install the breakwater, and that's what it's based on. So I'm waiting to see that cost share analysis and request agreement to us. And hopefully we'll get it within the next month before we move on to the next step. So that's also fantastic news for protecting the shoreline of Princeton by the Sea. Beyond that, everything else is going great with the harbors, and the car show district is very proud, as you know, to sponsor it, and staff is very proud to participate. We're excited about it, but the only reason we're able to host it this year is because the salmon season's been canceled. So the fishing boats and trailers that would normally be parked in that parking lot aren't there this year. So it opened up that parking lot, which is, it's fantastic that we can do the show, but it's also negative that our fishermen aren't able to get out there and go fish. So double-ended sword on that.
Jim.
All right, thank you. Director of Operations, Moran.
Harbors, still, like, as you said, suffering a little bit with the occupancy, but we're still hovering around 90%. Which is any marina, a good, or any harbor, a good, healthy occupancy rate. Staff are continuing to do dock repairs. We've already discussed the car show event that's going to occur this weekend. Staff are all excited to be participating and assisting with that. And then at Oyster Point, we're still hovering around 80%. And only other thing I'd mention there is that the fishing pier, due to construction, the South San Francisco undertaking and repaving, the fishing pier is going to be closed from the 22nd to the 26th. And the launch ramp trailer parking area will be closed. So parking lot or parking for the trailer vehicles will be limited the 22nd through the 24th. I've got nothing else.
And we've got adequate signage for all that.
Yes. The flyers out. So we've got our website as well.
Right. We've had a lot of conversation about our Surface Beach restroom. One thing I'd like to direct staff to do is gather up all the expenses for that ditch that was improved, that we were ordered by Half Moon Bay. Gather up all those expenses. Calculate how long the fence was up, that they could have permitted us, and we had a daily cost on the rental of the fence. I want to make sure all the expenses for that ditch that we repaired that was not ours is sent to Half Moon Bay, and that they realize that directing us to use our contractor to get our permit was not fair or sensible at all. So I want to make sure that they get sent a bill on that. Administration and Finance Director.
Thank you, President Matoush. Good morning, Commissioners. We're currently working through fiscal year-end process, getting ready for our year-end audit. And also we are successfully setting up all the required investment accounts last month. We've made our first transfer of $1.5 million at the end of June last year. And there'll be some paperwork to sign to transfer another $500,000 into our camp account. So that will increase our investment returns. And that's all I have. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Any commissioner comments?
No.
All right, there's a consent calendar. Do we have a motion on the consent calendar?
So moved.
I'd like to pull item 10.
Item 10, okay.
10.
I was gonna pull 10 too.
Okay.
Okay. And then I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar items 1 through 9.
Second. Roll call, please.
President Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Domrat,
Aye.
Commissioner Jane Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter.
Yes. That brings us to item G1, special use permit, Pacific Ecologic.
I am going to turn it over to our speaker, who is going to make a presentation on pelican tracking for folks in Harbor. This is a request to install equipment on one of our buildings to be able to track tagged pelicans as they travel through the Half Moon Bay, Pillow Point Harbor area. With that, I'll let the speaker introduce herself and then go into the presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Deborah Jakes and appreciate being able to see you directly here and speak on this project. Thank you, Melanie, for inviting us. You put in an application, to put a sensor station in the harbor somewhere. We haven't decided on an ideal location yet, but this is in the exploratory phases. So I wanted to give a short presentation on the project itself and then get into the little bit of the nuts and bolts about the equipment. So I'll go through it pretty quickly and then happy to answer any questions afterwards. I'm an independent consultant from Crescent City and I work under Pacific Ecologic. This is a grant-funded project with the Oiled Wildlife Care Network, which is a UC Davis vet school entity that is responsible for preparing for, responding to, and overseeing rehabilitation of wildlife in the event of a major oil spill. So our project is to test a new method for electronically tracking brown pelicans. Previously, they have used satellite backpacks on the birds. And so this is a new method using a small electronic transmitter on the leg band. And it would have applicability to determining how well those rehabilitation efforts worked following a spill. But hopefully with this new method, we hope it'll help us learn a lot more about movement ecology, survival of chicks, and different migratory dynamics of the brown pelican. So there's a recent blog that you could go to for an overview of the project. But here's the band, if you want to pass around just to see what it's like. It's, as I said, a new product from Cellular Tracking Technologies, and it's designed after the color band that pelicans were already using. It has hybrid power, so there's a solar panel on the side and a battery backup inside that can last 3 days approximately. One of the innovations is there's an internal antenna wrapped around inside the plastic because we didn't want to have anything that might tangle the pelican or get eroded or fail. But that's limited the transmission of it compared to bands with or tags with external antenna. We tested the equipment and it can be detected at least 3 kilometers from a sensor station, and a sensor can be as small as this handheld device here. But with this system, to have the miniaturized radio telemetry, you're putting more of the burden on the landscape. So this is this relatively new MOTIS system, and it's where the device will be received by a sensor station on shore as opposed to a satellite or a cell tower. And so the stations have to be relatively close, within 15 kilometers of your animal. But it's allowed people to tag things as small as monarch butterflies and dragonflies, just very tiny, with their unique digital IDs. So once an animal passes that sensor station, its information is gathered and then taken up to the cloud to Birds Canada, which is orchestrating this whole thing, and then comes back down to the researchers. So any animal that passes by, say if there's a station at Pillar Point, would be registered, and then all that data is accessible to the public and the various researchers. So it's a really neat system, a really collaborative system, and it's one they're using on the Atlantic coast for looking at the effects of wind energy on seabirds. And so they've put an array of stations out in the ocean and buoys, for example. And these can be as elaborate or simple as fits the situation. Our project so far, it was all in the testing. We designed the band and tested it, and we're using rehabilitated pelicans to try it out. So far we've got 16 birds that were already in hand from other injuries out there, and it's going well. And we plan to continue this work to put tags on pre-fledged chicks on the Channel Islands colonies next spring. And part of the testing of it is to find out how long these transmitters last. Some of the birds that have quit transmitting, we don't know if they've died or if the equipment has failed. So Pillar Point gives an opportunity where you can kayak and see them really close, and they're very friendly, sort of. They allow close approach because they're so habituated that there's a great opportunity to look for the bands that have potentially failed. So again, the request is to set up a MOTIS station, and we don't have any stations yet. We're relying on other people in the network. We chose this site because it is probably the largest communal brown pelican roost in the state of California, maybe on the whole West Coast at this point. This was just some of the information you can get from the MOTIS website. So there's a great educational opportunity here too. People can click on the different stations or the different birds and see little visuals of where that bird has gone. This was a visual of one of our first birds that was tagged. And so they just go between station, and there's a shortage of stations in this region. So I'm sure that bird went past Pillar Point, but we don't have a station here. So it just shows overland. Oops. So a station here would fill in a gap in the Central Coast. As I said, give us an opportunity to look for the failed tags. Even if the tag is transmitting, give us an opportunity to look at the bird and make sure it looks healthy. And it's just the ideal harbor to work in as far as access. That's just showing the whole network of stations. The MOTIS system is kind of new on the West Coast. It's really well built out on the East Coast, but all the yellow dots are stations that exist right now. And then the red arrow is where, if we had one at Pillar Point, how that would fit in with the whole scheme. So yeah, says this was one of the birds from the Refugio oil spill that took up residence here in Pillar Point. They do migrate back and forth from Mexico and go all the way up to as far as British Columbia. But this was one of the survivors that was washed and did really well and was frequently seen here. So here's a picture of the sensor station itself. It's in a weatherproof box, but then most people put a marine battery in another weatherproof box with it. The source of power could be plugged in or a solar panel and marine battery. We're requesting an omnidirectional antenna that would not be that large or heavy as a directional Yagi antenna. 33 inches in height. They weigh less than a pound, evidently. And a 50-watt solar panel, I think, is about 14 inches wide. And these things, you want to get them up and away from interference. So I was eyeballing the roofs of the Johnson Pier and talked with Chris about this a little bit. It seems like either one of these places would be an ideal location. So if we were to go forward with this, we would bring the USGS expert engineer down to help us with a site inspection to look for ideal locations with someone from the harbor. The USGS is setting up an array on the West Coast now to look at wind energy, well, in conjunction with BOEM to begin studies of seabirds in relation to wind energy. So they are setting up about 30 stations, and the furthest north planned right now is Santa Cruz. But they have offered to spend a day and help with this project, and we can hire for additional time if needed. But the main thing is mounting considerations. And the project we have before us is a 3-year project. We're in the 2nd year of it. And it could be decided if the Harbor District wants to keep station going. After that could be reevaluated. The photo here shows the Rincon Island site with the Yagi antenna in addition to the omnidirectional right here, and they've put some tape on it to avoid bird strike, but that's mounted on a rail. And they've got their solar panel and then the sensor station box here. And then this one is without the Yagi antenna, just the omnidirectional and one of these flat surface mount I saw on the Harbor District office. You guys already have several of these for other reasons. So I think there's a whole lot of potential to learn about how these pelicans move and even how to understand mortality events better. What part of the population is coming from Mexico versus our US Channel Islands. It's just kind of unlimited. And I love that it's a very light weight for the bird and could potentially last a lifetime. We just don't know yet. So with that, any questions?
I think this is an excellent idea. Falls well in line with the future that we're envisioning for Pillar Point Harbor as a research and education center. And we'd like to encourage a lot more of that, whether from USGS, from Scripps. I worked a little bit with Scripps over the last 40 years, putting in wave gauges up and down the whole coast of California. But I guess one of the point would be if we want to encourage that educational component, would there be a way to maybe in real time read some of that data somewhere like on the dock or below the building or maybe, at the harbor master's office, so people who, are interested can see if there's pelicans flying and where they're coming from and so forth. So
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be just a matter of, I think, I haven't seen one of these set up yet, but having a computer and then could be a hands-on. If I was a little better technically, I'd show you the website right now.
Yeah, we'd like to get most of our public to be, programmed into that so they can see what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fun. And the Modus website has so many ways of looking at the data that are user-friendly. And I think that's a big part of it is get the public involved.
I think it's great too. And I'm glad that that Pillar Point Harbor is in a location that will benefit you as well, because it
Yeah.
really, I think, is an important area that fills this gap, and I'm glad that we can participate.
And it wouldn't be just pelicans, it could be when the USGS are
Right.
gonna tag Western gulls, Cassin's auklets, and Leach's storm petrels, I think, so,
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we're in an ideal location for research like that.
I think one of the things we could do is put up on the office right there at the entry to the pier.
The harbor
Is-
masters are.
Yeah, just on the window or something, a website if you're interested in brown pelicans.
That's a great idea.
Because everybody's walking along like this anyway. Maybe we can get them to go, oh, wow.
yeah, QR codes work pretty well too.
Yeah, whatever it takes so that people can possibly go to your website to learn more. There's so much, people are very used to going online for information, and it would be nice to have some real factual information about the harbor and what's going on, and that in particular, and the next item too, as a matter of fact. Education is the best way, and being there is the best way to get people to care for things. And all the lectures in the world don't make you care for something so much as seeing that little baby brown pelican going, whoop. So, and all the birds out there, on next door, they're talking about great blue herons nesting near the harbor. And they're all named, I don't know, Brian, because they each have a name, Brian. And it's nice to live in a space that cares about our birds of prey, our chickadees, and now our bigger birds. So I certainly approve of this and would encourage more outreach. Maybe for the next item, you can throw in a brown pelican on one of the murals or something. That's assuming we go along with it, of course. I'm only speaking as one. But I'm excited by this. And
We'll hear about that next. The painting of our buildings. So that's what I know you look confused, like, what? Wait a minute, we're not gonna do that. The next presentation, we'll talk.
I will say my kids grew up here, and we had a neighbor who was a bird watcher and a grass scientist, and they used to go wandering the hills and looking at birds, and there's nothing like being there to learn to appreciate it.
It's an incredible, rich harbor for wildlife. I always enjoy coming down here.
Thanks
It's
for
beautiful. Yeah.
How long does the tracker last on the leg?
Well, that we're still trying to find out. We're up to about 8 months now. So I guess electronics just fail, but I was hoping originally it might be lifetime, 10 years, but now the vendor's saying, if we get that, we're going to come down with some champagne and celebrate with you. That would be outstanding.
I haven't seen a lot of pelicans that are banded from other projects. I imagine you'll be able to scout the numbers. I mean, we see our bird watchers now making note of the bands on the pelicans now on our various bird watching trips out of the harbor at this point.
That's great. And that brings up a good point. Even when and if these transmitters fail, they'll still have a color band on them, passing around, so that for their lifetime, you can still read that number with binoculars, and it being so easy to read them here. That we'll know, if the bird outlived its transmitter or not.
You guys working also with some of the local fish and wildlife people?
Yeah, that California Department of Fish and Wildlife is real big into this MODIS project also, and they've set up a number of sensor stations. They have one at Elkhorn Slough, and they helped us with our testing initially, but
About the U.S. Fish and Wildlife?
U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has more jumped on it up in Oregon, Washington. They have an initiative, but it is part of the Partners in Flight and the cross-country, the binational efforts. A whole lot of buy-in from resource agencies on this.
The local fellow right here, I believe on the Hayward side of the San Mateo Bridge that I've worked with quite a bit. And it just sounds to me like he'd be very interested in this as well. I'll have to get you his name.
Yeah, I'd be very interested in hearing and meeting some more of the local people.
I was absolutely amazed at the number of monitoring stations you had. Look forward to adding Pillar Point to that list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exciting.
To have one here, it would be great to have one.
As a follow-up to that, do you have an optimal distance that you would like to see these stations or?
That's another thing, the USGS, this is the center out of Santa Cruz. They've offered to come up and do some interference testing. They do murrelet surveys out of the harbor anyway. And so they were supposed to come up last week, but they're gonna come up and work on that. But I think the closer to all the major pelicans where they aggregate, the better. So that's why I was thinking the end of Johnson Pier would probably be best. That, we thought about that big station up, the radar station. But I just think that might be complicated as far as access and interference. I'm not sure. So I thought I'd try here.
That's an Air
Signal
Force
interference.
base.
Air Force Base.
Well, there may be some other locations in addition to Pillar Point Harbor within our county area. that
Yeah,
there could-
yeah. I did.
Thinking specifically Pacifica Pier, which is kind of on the other side of the Devil's Slide headland in
Yeah.
Pacifica.
Mm-hmm.
In the 80s is where we put one of the Scripps wave gauges and tied it into there, waited a long time.
Yeah. And these things,
I mean, it's just, if there's some optimal distance of 10 miles or 20 miles, I don't know. Kind of what
to
it-
get within 3 kilometers for this project, since that's as far as our testing has proven it'll work.
Could talk to Clemens Heldmeyer, the general manager at Montero Water and Sanitary District. Montero Water and Sanitary has tide sensors and other kinds of sensors, working with UCSF and other agencies. And I am sure the board there would be excited to be a part of this project. And it goes out on the ocean. It's out on a point.
Okay, yeah.
So you'd have here and then back here.
Yeah, sky's the limit on something like this.
Also, California state parks have facilities at many of the beaches up and down the whole coast of California that would have power, would have, the availability to get the signal to where you needed to go. So that would be another place to look at.
On Nuevo Island, probably.
Yeah, for sure on Nuevo.
That would be
I
really
was-
interesting to see how they.
Farallon Islands also, you may want to think about, who have
My
research.
contact works with us. You give me your phone number, I'll send you.
Is that that guy? I think you're talking, okay, yeah, on the Farallon.
Cell phone?
Yeah, I don't know why there isn't one there yet either, but there probably will be. Yeah.
Cell phone?
Oh, my cell phone, 503 for all the world and television too. 298 0599. Oh.
503.
298 0599.
You can hiss that last 4 digits out on the tape, right?
We cannot alter
I'm sending you the contact for Jerry McChesney. And,
I know, Jared. We go way back, yeah.
yeah, so I've worked with him in the past.
Oh, good. Yeah, I will, Tom. Thank you. And I think this is something the sanctuary might be interested in too, because it reflects on where the birds are feeding out in the ocean. They're coming here to roost, but it's because there's food out there and there's a great place to rest here. So it's a nice nexus, and I think they're going to be interested too. So
I just want to say thanks for the presentation. I learned a lot more about brown pelicans than I've known in the past. And is there anything that you need from the commission on this? Okay, so,
Yeah, this is just a presentation.
Information. okay, good. No, I support this
Not something
totally.
You should definitely contact.
Don't forget your bands.
I used to be on
They're
their
over here.
foundation for like 12 or 13 years, so I can connect you with some.
It's the envelope of all of our buildings, so we control it.
All right. Item G2, Ocean Science Center Ad Hoc Committee Report, Commissioner Delmerat.
So at our last meeting, we did a very short informational presentation that Commissioner Slater Carter and I had a meeting with the interpretive sign people. We thought that it was very important and very productive that we look at this in more detail and bring the presentation to the entire board. So with that, Rochelle, you want to introduce our speakers?
Yes, thank you. I'm just pleased today to have Deborah Hurst, who is a community member and a soon-to-be returning graduate student, Camilla Lombard with Sea Forger, and Claire Lacey with Sea Hugger. Is there anybody that I didn't introduce?
Chris Worth.
Welcome, Chris. Thank you for being here. So I will turn it over to our presenters, and you could just use this little arrow here to advance through your slides. Thank you, Deborah. What if you can do like this? I would be happy to.
Hi, Commissioners. It's really a pleasure to be here. My name is Deborah Hurst. I am a ratepayer at Pillar Point Harbor, and my husband and I own a sailboat here. And I've also been involved with Oceans Week at Hatch Elementary School for the past few years. And through the existing ocean science education that's taking place in our schools in Cabrillo Unified School District, we formed the idea of a collaborative with the Harbor District, working with Inkwell Studio to do a series of murals and really to focus on, with the National Marine Sanctuary, on updating animals that are already at the harbor. We're here today to give you an update. We had Inkwell Jane Kim come and give a presentation back in December of 2022. And so this is an update to let you know that we've made a bit of progress in terms of collaboration. And our essential idea is to work with the harbor as a site to raise awareness about issues for conservation and shoreline erosion, shoreline change, salmonid, sustainable fishing, all the types of issues that the ad hoc committee is looking at. And our approach was to try to build off of ocean science we're doing at the schools. So we, in the last year, were able to work with the students to paint an ocean-focused mural at Hatch Elementary. This is visible from Highway 1, something that we did with the local mural artist, Ellen Silva. And it's a step towards building on collaboration with the harbor. Inkwell Studio, they're located just adjacent to our location here. And they have a series of migrating murals that have already been done. And our hope would be to work with the harbor to launch the salmon series. We're building our partnerships. Most recently, we've been working with Jennifer Stock at the National Marine Sanctuary. She submitted a proposal for $74,000 that would fund the development of the 10 interpretive panels for the harbor. We would be looking to highlight a lot of the work that's being done now on the shoreline with the beach nourishment project, that congratulations on getting the permits for that. And then also we would be looking to highlight a number of the topics that are already represented in the interpretive panels. And then also look to see if we might be able to also include topics related to stewardship. Some of the partners that are here today are Sea Forager, which is a local business, and also Sea Hugger. So I'll just briefly leave this timeline here. And next week, we're going to be meeting with Supervisor Mueller and his staff. And we would be very interested in meeting again with the commissioners working on the ad hoc committee to talk about if we're able to find a Measure K match to the federal funds that are currently being considered. We would be able to bring funding for murals at the harbor, as well as the interpretive panels. And I just wanted to briefly have my colleagues come up and talk about their interest in the project and some of the work that we did previously with the Coastal Cleanup Day. And
Hi, I am Lombard, co-founder of Sea Forager Seafood. So my husband, Kirk Lombard, and I run Sea Forager. We're a community-supported fishery. We work with local small-scale hook and line fishing boats and curate seafood packages for people in the San Francisco Bay Area, including the coastside. My husband also leads coastal fishing and foraging walking tours in San Francisco and Half Moon Bay. We are obviously very much aligned with local fisheries, and our kids go to Hatch Elementary, soon to be Cunha, one of them. And my son and daughter got to work on that beautiful mural that Deborah showed a picture of. And it's been a great program to get the community and the younger folks involved in appreciating and stewarding our local fisheries. This is really fun. We also have a sea shanty band called the Fishwives, and as one of the events kicking off the festivities in this whole project, we had a little sea shanty sing-along at Hop Dogma a couple of years ago. So it's been a process. We've been really delighted to be a part of the process, and looking at the future of what's possible is really exciting. So fingers crossed we can get this funding and bring this into reality. Certainly as the harbor identifies more and more as a sort of interactive, bringing the community and visitors in to appreciate our local bounty and what we're here to celebrate and conserve. So.
Then we can hand it off to Sea Hugger. We have one of Sea Hugger's board members, Chris Worth, with us today, and also Claire. If you want to come forward, Claire Lacey is also a parent with students, an older student, an older at the Cabrillo Unified School District. And we just want to say a word about interest in the project. And we just are trying to show that we're interested in really bringing our community members and highlighting all that's already happening at the harbor and the ocean science education that's taking place in the community.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Claire Lacey. This is Clementine Lacey. We work with Sea Hugger. If you guys don't already know, Sea Hugger is a local organization. We do a lot of environmental outreach and education. We go into schools. We've actually I collaborated with Deborah before doing the mural and different other type of murals at the schools and leading beach cleanups. And I will say, like, learning about these projects has been really exciting, and Sea Hugger definitely wanted to get involved as a nonprofit collaborator, because it's a win-win. It's, getting kids involved, making them see their environment, feel it, feel involved, really understand it. I think murals are a great way it's art, but it's also education. I think it's just a beautiful collaboration.
Yeah, and I'm here to echo the same. My name is Chris Worth. I'm a recent board of directors member that joined Sea Hugger earlier this year. I come from the sustainability, climate tech, and venture capital space. Having been a longtime resident here on the coast and also the Bay Area. So from both the Ocean Science Center, vision, as well as what we're talking about from the educational standpoint in the mural. I too have a daughter here at Fairlawn View, longtime participant in Oceans Week with Sea Hugger. And then also really kind of share that combination of vision of how do we intersect art, science, education, and ideally, emerging opportunities for our local. Well, up here as well, to borrow one of your phrases.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just a final word on this timeline. It's a draft for discussion. And the reason why is because we are working to build our partnerships, and we're absolutely interested in working with the Harbor District to talk about the facilities, to talk about the details of what it would take to identify the sites for the murals. We've had some conversations with General Manager Pruitt, which we greatly appreciate. And we're also very interested in securing our first bit of funding to move beyond the conceptual design that the Hatch Parent Teacher Organization was able to help fund through community donations. So I can share the link with our conceptual design, which was presented back in 2022 by Inkwell. And we would be very interested in having a next conversation as we hear more from the conversation with the county. So if there are any questions, we'd be very happy to.
Last time we talked about the possibility, whether it be funding that would be needed from the harbor or maybe some in-kind service or whatever. Can you address that a little bit, please?
Yeah, we're actually thrilled. Thank you for mentioning. We do understand that it would be possible to have an in-kind contribution from the harbor to do the actual installation of the 10 signs, which we would greatly appreciate. That would be about $2,000 worth of in-kind time. And then also, it does sound like General Manager Pruitt might be able to provide $2,000 as a cash match toward that. So our goal would be to reach about $140,000 total, which would include the 3 murals and the 10 interpretive signs. Half of that we anticipate may come from the National Marine Sanctuary through their internal request. That would come next year with the approval of the federal budget if it makes it through the review process and is selected for funding. And then we do have a couple of other ideas on funding opportunities.
So I don't know if the commissioners remember, but in your packet, I believe last month, we did show you examples of what some of these buildings may look like, where they actually painted on the building some of these murals. Would we be able to put a pelican on one of those?
Absolutely. And I do want to mention that the Cal Academy does do citizen science. My son and I went out to do the tide pooling that just recently happened. Next year is going to be their 10th anniversary of doing that monitoring with the iNaturalist app. It's phenomenal. I think Pillar Point's one of the most studied tide pool, and that's another thing that we would highlight in the murals. And part of the reason I didn't present any images about the murals is because they are just at the conceptual level, and we would be able to work with input as we move forward once we have more funding. But I can send the link to the conceptual design that was shared back in 2022. Are there any other questions?
I have a question, Jim. So, from a structure standpoint, in terms of, in terms of donations, not just for this, but I think even in general, I mean, how can we, or can we set up an adjacent 501c3? I mean, like my fire district has that through philanthropic ventures. And I'm not saying that we should, I just think that maybe we could look at that so that if someone wanted to donate through our 501c3 that's adjacent to us, that they could do something. They can donate in a restricted amount for example, the mural project. And I don't want to introduce a totally new cockamamie idea, but I think there are public agencies that have like a friends group or a nonprofit arm through like I said, like philanthropic ventures. I think they're in Burlingame or something somewhere along the Mid-Peninsula. So I don't know if that's something that we should explore, but it seems like to me that it could be an opportunity for the public who might be interested in something like this from, various angles, sea life, art, whatever.
I think it's a fantastic idea, and an ad hoc group for this board is already working on it.
Correct. And that's in
The structure of a nonprofit.
That's another thing. We've been looking at that. We had some very, very informal discussion with Sea Hugger when we met, in them possibly acting on our behalf. And did that thing, because they're already a 501c3.
I know.
So that was just very informal. It was just an idea we threw out there, but we are, pursuing that for all these activities for the ocean.
Okay, I wasn't sure where y'all were on that 501c3 structure. I would suggest that, I love Sea Hugger. We've been working with Sea Hugger since they started with the waste bins, sea bins. When Shell first started, so we're very familiar and love them. We're familiar with them and love them. I almost think that we might want to look at something through another arm, like philanthropic ventures or another, community fund kind of thing. So
Set up our own.
it's Friends of the Harbor, the Harbor District, because we might want to do something at Oyster Point too.
A separate 501.
Well, it could be, it doesn't have to be. I don't know. So, I was on a board, and I was the president of this board, but the Friends of the Palo Alto Junior Museum and Zoo for many years. And that was their 501c3 arm to the city of Palo Alto. And it worked really well, actually. So I don't know. I'm not saying that we shouldn't work with Sea Hugger on this, but it may be beneficial to the Harbor District to have our own friends group. That's just my 2 cents worth.
Well, George and I have been talking about that for months.
Okay, so I must have missed that somewhere in this
Well,
conversation.
no, it was kind of walking down a trail.
I definitely missed that.
But by doing an association with an existing 501c3, it gives us the time to create one properly and correctly, so that instead of in a rush. Because I'd like to be able to see this start soon. I was just thinking, I'm kind of hoping, and this is, sorry,
Well, they have a
tangential,
little
but
timeline up
I
there.
would love to see you guys with, talking to the, car show that's coming up on Sunday and asking if you could have a little booth just so that people could,
I know what's coming up.
I had,
Sea Hugger.
full disclosure, I owned and operated McDonald's restaurants. I was on the corporate advertising board for about 7 years. And one of the things I learned, and I think Chris knows this all better than I do, to get people's attention, you have to keep the idea up to them in different places, in places they don't necessarily expect it. But then the next time they see it, it's like planting a seed, and the one seed may or may not grow, but you plant 10 seeds and all of a sudden people are like, wow, I've heard about it. And, I'd love to make our meetings here and our minutes a place where you can come to our website and see what progress is being made. It's as I've learned in government, government makes the glacial age look fast. And so it's nice to keep a record somewhere that people can, with something place people can identify with, and they can come back and double check it. I was just involved in another matter between the county and one of their boards. And project is going on without any staff reports. And I'm going, this is a project that is for a county created agency, and if the county is going to be making changes to it, it needs to have staff reports. I want to have written reports, at least in our minutes, about people showing up here and saying, oh, we're making this kind of progress. We met with the county. So this thing doesn't just fade away if the board, when the board changes. And so that we create for this countywide district a sense for the county that we care about educating people, not just selling fish. And bring your kids and come look at these murals when they finally get done, and we can have a big fundraiser or something. Maybe we can figure out, other ways, but I'd love to see you relying on or using us for an opportunity for your public outreach, because I think what you're doing is so important for so many people. And when I read next door, sometimes I'm pretty surprised at the questions that come up. And I really appreciate that you guys are working on being able to give people a place and answer those questions with facts.
Thank you for having us again for this update, and we would love to come back again as we know more. We do anticipate working with Sea Hugger on more outreach events, and we may tag on to the Coastal Cleanup Day in September. There's also World Ocean Day in June. We absolutely would be interested in doing a cleanup here at Pillar Point Harbor itself, in addition to the one Sea Hugger is routinely doing on other beaches. So I think it is fantastic to have a public record. And so we're very interested in emphasizing that this is a collaboration that we're continuing to develop, and outreach at events is something we absolutely want to do. And we're very grateful for Seahugger's partnership. They would be the applicant for a Measure K grant through the county, and they will be meeting with us with Supervisor Mueller next week. And we would be very interested in understanding if there's any role for any public members or nonprofit partners in the ad hoc committee with all the research you're doing on an Ocean Science Center, because that is an absolutely fantastic vision that we would love to help support. So we'll look forward to talking more with Commissioners Slater Carter and Domara.
Like minds work alike, and I'm glad we've all finally come together to get these seeds growing.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
Thank you.
George and Catherine, you've been busy.
Yes. And to end on that point, we will be at the end of this month. Oh, maybe Rochelle was going to mention that.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're going to be visiting the San Francisco Bay Model, which has an interpretive center for Bay science and that kind of technology, and the Tiburon Marine Lab, which would demonstrate more of a direct R&D research place there. They don't have a public presence, but part of our vision is to have a research arm and the education arm, where research you can like the Pelican issue, where we would invite, or scientists could come and we would have a small facility for them and whatever kind of infrastructure they would need to support any research based out of Pillar Point Harbor. So that's kind of the direction we're going. Hopefully it'll happen before I get too old. But that's what we're working towards. And we're going to monopolize on all the current ongoing educational things we're doing and try to promote that even further.
Thank you so much. And then I can add that, we met as an ad hoc group on June 12th, really to keep talking about which partnerships we'd like to be building, kind of some of the struggles of getting our site visits scheduled. UCSF has had some staffing issues, some staff out with health issues. So it's kind of taken us a while to get that site visit scheduled. And that conversation again about how to fund these concepts, and that, the district doesn't necessarily have that identified in our budget, but looking at, what 501c3, kind of, yeah.
And I think the Fitzgerald Marine Reserve, they have something very similar, Friends of the, right? That I didn't know y'all were talking about this, but I do think that it's something and the structure I think will be really important. And anyway. And I mean, I'm not knocking Seahugger or any nonprofit, but I think it's important that we have our own, right? I mean, in terms of timing, and does RWG, they could help set up 501c3s from a legal perspective. I've had to set one up before. Shouldn't take that long.
Right, and a number of our agencies have done that, so
Yeah.
we're able to assist with that effort.
Yeah. I mean, we work with Seahugger in so many ways. I don't want us to be conflicted out with them either.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I was thinking of a separate 501c3 or friends group. But that'd be interesting, Jim, to talk to, Tricia, to see what RWG can do as part of
Maybe
it.
something we can look at both tracks. Maybe we do something interim as we're developing
I
other.
know, but what I'm saying is that that's why I'm asking Tricia, it's not gonna take that long, because they have a legal team that does that.
Yeah.
Right, because it's really a legal issue set up right now, and the name and all of that. But we as a board probably have to talk about it and approve it. So maybe, should that be a future agenda item? I can put it down, okay. I'm just.
Put it on your list right here.
Okay, I'm putting it on my list.
The only other thing I'd like to say about the Ocean Science Center, and the rest of the board hasn't heard this yet, but we have an ad hoc committee that looks at activities. And one of the activities we've been kind of talking about a little bit, not ferret it out in any mode, is to, by like mid-October, maybe do a science education day where we would have, so the Marine Science Institute from Redwood City has offered some of their services to come and bring a lot of their species in tanks and do a little program at the harbor. We would look at that. We would look at some other activities, maybe Sea Hugger with the Brown Pelican issue, have booths set up so that in the morning or early before lunch, we have the little kids come, they can clean up the beaches. We can do the Marine Science Institute, bring all their species so kids can play with these things. We're looking at possibly some kind of food cook-off thing for around lunch. And then in the afternoon, I've been in contact with the San Francisco State, not San Francisco State, the Skyline College Jazz Singers and Jazz Orchestra. They'd love to come and play. And their final concert in May was a 2-hour concert, and they just rocked the place. So, and they would come and then we would do that from like 3 to 5, and at 5, people break up and can then go to all the restaurants in our area, including the ones at the harbor. So it's something that's kind of, we're just starting to think about. Hopefully we can pull something together, but I want to really focus on the Ocean Science Center and all the other R&D things that everybody does here. Maybe Pacific, there used to be the Pacifica Beach Coalition, or now the Pacific Beach Coalition, invite them, have Sea Hugger, have everybody kind of highlight the importance of the coast and what we're all trying to do for it. So we'll hear more about that. Hopefully that'll get some place and we can do it for October.
Orange.
We did a great job.
Well, I saw my name on there, so I better think about something.
Wonderful.
Don't put my name on there. No, I can't say my name in less than 20 minutes.
Thank you.
A lawyer.
Yeah, I know.
Moving on to item
Used car
G3,
salesman.
coastside search and rescue project. So we met on July 2nd, and to reiterate, the Harbor District strongly supports providing maritime search and rescue capabilities on the coast side. Except for the state park rangers providing nearshore surf rescues at state beaches, the Harbor District is the only agency in San Mateo County providing immediate maritime search and rescue on the coast side. We've talked about this before. In your packet is a letter that I'm proposing to send to Ray Mueller. It basically says we need the MOUs between the sheriff's department and the different groups, fire department. We're trying to come up with ways to fund our search and rescue capabilities. And along that, I'm going to propose board approval to send a letter to the city of Half Moon Bay mayor to get a portion of the TOT fees. To give you an idea of the importance of this, in 2021, the TOT for the Pillar Point RV Park was $122,868. 2022 is $153,719. 2023 was $108,569 to try and bring some of that back to the Harbor District. I did have a conversation when the Half Moon Bay officials were here about, what was it, 3 years ago when they toured the harbor. And I said, listen, we're getting all this TOT, you got projects up here to do. And they didn't want to talk about it then, but here's the letter of proposed sending. City of Half Moon Bay, Joaquin Jimenez, Mayor, 501 Main Street, Half Moon Bay. Dear Mayor Jimenez, the San Mateo County Harbor District requests a portion of the transient occupancy tax collected by the City of Half Moon Bay from the Pillar Point RV Park be allocated to the Harbor District for public safety. The coast side, with its exposure to the awesome power of the Pacific Ocean, poses several hazards to maritime users, from the average beachgoer to the most experienced fisherman mariner. Coastline is exposed and ragged with wide sweeping beaches, large bluffs, remote coves, exposed rocks, and large surf. This environment, while beautiful, places a large demand for search and rescue up and down the coast from Gray Whale Cove in the north to Pigeon Point in the south. San Mateo County Harbor District has been responding to emergency search and rescue maritime assist on the coast side for several decades. The public, coastside residents and tourists, users of Pillar Point Harbor and other governmental agencies, county, sheriff, and coastside fire, depend on the Harbor District to provide world-class search and rescue maritime assist. Pillar Point Harbor Deputy Harbor Master take great pride in their work as search and rescue professionals, as does the Harbor District. However, the work the program is currently staffed and funded is placing the staff, the harbor, and all those at risk. In recent years, the Harbor District has had to reduce the excessive numbers of overtime hours, as well as the daily shift length that were required for the Harbor District to maintain a steady search and rescue capability. This has resulted in the coastside, including the beaches of Half Moon Bay, going without immediate maritime response for extended hours each day, beyond that provided by state lifeguards on state beaches. Neither CAL FIRE nor the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office maintain an immediate maritime response on the coastside. Both depend on the Harbor District to conduct maritime search and rescue and to transport their personnel in an emergency. The Harbor Patrol also provides waterside support for CAL FIRE and all cliff rescues along the San Mateo coastline. Likewise, the U.S. Coast Guard also relies heavily on the Harbor District to respond to distress calls off the coast side, as their closest life-saving unit is located within San Francisco Bay. To improve the limited maritime search and rescue response capability for the coast side, the Harbor District requires additional funding. As the Harbor District is not mandated by law to conduct maritime search and rescue beyond the breakwaters of the harbor, it is not specifically funded to conduct the mission. As the city of Half Moon Bay receives a significant benefit from the Harbor District providing maritime search and rescue, the Harbor District is requesting the city assist us with funding. On November 3rd, 2020, the voters of Half Moon Bay approved Measure U, City of Half Moon Bay Transitory Occupancy Tax Measure, which was placed on the ballot by Half Moon Bay Resolution number C-2020-78. The measure resulted in the TOT increasing its current rate of 15%. As a basis in asking the voters to approve Measure U, the city of Half Moon Bay stated the purpose of Measure U was to ensure public places were kept healthy, safe, clean, maintaining 911 emergency response times, and so on. As the only government agency on the coastside that provides immediate maritime emergency response services, a portion of the TOT should be allocated to the Harbor District. The Pillar Point Harbor RV Park, located on Harbor District property, is required by City Ordinance 3.12.030 to pay 15% in TOT based on the rent charged to each guest of the park. It is this TOT the Harbor District is seeking. The TOT is collected from a tenant on board Pillar Point Harbor, and the TOT collected from that tenant should be allocated to the public safety initiatives and activities provided by the Harbor District, to include maritime search and rescue. If you have any questions or would like to discuss this further, please contact General Manager Jim Pruitt, email and phone number. Thank you in advance for supporting public safety on the coastside. Tom Mateusz, President, San Mateo County Harbor District. Could I get approval by the board?
If I may, President Mateusz, you can sign this under your own authority as the president of the board. Because it's not specifically agendized for the letters to go out, we cannot take a vote on approval from the board level, but there's nothing prevents you getting the opinion, but you'd be signing under your authority as the president of the board.
Right. Well, I'm keeping the board appraised of what I'm doing.
Well, I want to say that I support your doing this and encourage you to send it out to anybody else we can think of, you can think of, staff can think of, to contribute to this. It's of critical importance. Every time a tourist dies here, it looks bad for everyone. And by the way, Half Moon Bay's name is always at the top of the list as to where they died. So maybe they'd like this not to happen under their watch.
Well, another way to look at City of Half Moon Bay, 25 years of these type of fees that I just read, that's over $2.5 million collected that are not directed back into the Harbor District.
I have a comment.
Final comment.
No, not final comment, because
On
George
this.
had, not on the letter, on this agenda item, and Eva allowed other people to talk, and I have a very serious comment that I want to make on this issue. Because let me just say this. I understand, I've heard from people that Supervisor Mueller, Sheriff Corpus, and Mayor Jimenez did a press conference on Harbor District property about water safety and did not include the Harbor District. I'm just going to say this very emphatically, that public safety is not a political issue. And it's shameful, in my opinion, that it appears to be going that way. So what should have happened was that at a minimum, our president, Tom Mateusz, should have been included in that meeting or in that press conference. I've actually heard from a few members of the public saying, why are they there when the Harbor District provides water rescue? We're the only agency that actually does that immediately. So instead of making this a political issue, which I believe is happening, and from the public comment that we heard this morning from the member of the public, I don't think there's a clear understanding of what we do, why we do it, and the expectation from the public that we continue this service and that this service needs funding. The city of Half Moon Bay, from what I've read in the Half Moon Bay review, has a 3.4, I think that's the right number, $1 million structural deficit, right? So I don't know how they're spending their money or managing their money, but if public safety is important, they should at least entertain helping to fund some of this that's happening in their city. So Tom, I support that you send this out because I don't believe public safety is a political issue. And I hope that the other elected officials involved will agree with that. And I know this harbor board agrees with that. So I think from a collaboration standpoint, we all need to collaborate together instead of working in silos and making this a political issue. And actually, quite frankly, downplaying and insulting the work that our harbor crew do all the time for water rescue. Thank you for letting me vent a little.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Just from a logistic standpoint, the problem will get worse. Anybody who gets to the coast on the weekends now, over the last 5 years, it's increasing further and further. So the safety issue is going to become a bigger problem.
Pontificating about it is nothing. Actually doing it and putting your money where your mouth is something. But making it political is unacceptable and shameful. And we have not done that. And neither should anyone else.
All right, moving on to item G4, Pillar
Thank
Point Harbor Retail Building. We had the meeting on July 2nd. We had an update on the permitting of the project, working on CEQA. The initial study will determine if the project has significant environmental impact. Depending on the initial study, a negative declaration, mitigated negative declaration, or environmental impact requirement may be required. It's unknown at this time which level of review will be required. If a full EIR is required, the project may be delayed for an additional year. Some of the challenges we're up against, the county recommends determine the level of review, consider a completed transportation improvement and mitigation plan, parking analysis, and geotechnical and tsunami reports. Staff is working with the design and engineering firm as well as their CEQA subcontractor to complete the initial study. The district is currently planning on initial study following the mitigated negative declaration as opposed to an EIR. A significant concern voiced by the county was the fact the retail center is currently being planned for construction in the tsunami zone. Next meeting was not considered. Now we're on to item G5, consideration of a flag policy. General Manager Pruitt.
Mr. Mateusz, commissioners, at I think it was last meeting, I was requested to put together a flag policy for flags that fly on district property and or flagpoles. And because we did not have a flag policy, so I put together a flag policy that provides that the district shall fly the American flag, the state flag, POW MIA flag, and the district flag on district-owned flagpoles and property. Additional flags may be flown or recognition flags for different events may also be flown on district flagpoles if requested by a board member. And then there's that board member's request is approved by the full board. That flag then can be flown. The policy is also requiring us to add additional flagpoles to the Harbor District inventory here at the district office. So we can also fly the American flag as discussed on the flagpoles here at the district office. And any flag of recognition would be, if approved by the board, would be flown only on that flagpole. Leaving the flagpoles at the facilities to fly the national flag, state, POW, and district flag alone, as not to cause confusion with the condition warning flags for small craft advisory or storm advisories, both day and night. So we have pennants as described in the policy that we fly down at the Harbor District almost on a daily basis for small craft advisories. And that will be, those will be the only other flags that staff will be authorized to fly on district-owned flagpoles at the facilities. Any questions? I'm asking the board to consider resolution 2416 adopting the new policy 2.1.7 display of flags on district flagpoles.
I'll make the motion to do that so that we can start the discussion, but I do have a question.
I'll second that so we can
Alright.
start the discussion.
Go ahead.
So quick question, Jim. So for the POW MIA flag, is there a reason that we would include them on there in this policy? I mean, I understand why, to a certain extent, but, and I'm not against it. I just think that from a public safety standpoint, maybe we should just keep it very focused on what we need to do from, besides flying the California, the US flag and the California flag in our, advisory flags or warning flags. I mean, I would rather have that than include a POW MIA flag. I looked it up and what the history was, and I totally would normally support that, but I'm viewing this from a public safety perspective. And at least with our, we get the fire stations and in my fire district, we get requests to put different flags up. And we never do because it confuses people when they look at something. So any kind of signage or whatever, we only put up fire district signage because it's promoting, like Earthquake Awareness Month or, something that is safety related. And I kind of view our situation here as a safety awareness thing too. And so I'm not trying to X out POW and MIAs. I think it's a big deal, but I don't know if that flag should be with the other flags if we want to keep it focused on what the Harbor District business and mission are.
Any of the policies I've reviewed in working for this policy, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel since other cities and districts have a policy, have the POW flag listed. And as a veteran, I support that idea. So I put it in for the board's consideration. But
And I support veterans.
taking it off our flagpole and limiting it only to the United States flag, the state flag, and the district flag is also acceptable.
Do we currently have the POW flags? Yeah, I don't remember seeing one. Okay.
And I just want to make it clear that this has nothing to do with my not supporting veterans. I totally do. I just think that for flags, there is a purpose for them, especially for us when we deal with wind advisory or small craft advisory, that kind of thing. So my preference would.
Flagpoles where we have to display the United States flag and then the state flag and then the POW flag, it does get a little loaded on the flagpole.
Yeah.
But on flagpoles with yard arms, like we did at the harbor, not necessarily, because all the warning flags are up top above everything. So we could change the policy to say on single flagpoles, stand alone, you only put up the United States flag and the state flag. But on flagpoles, multiple flagpoles, or a flagpole with yard arm, you could include the POW flag.
I just don't want that to be politicized either. Like where, someone reaches out, a special interest group reaches out to a harbor commissioner and, you know, it becomes, oh, well, that person's up for reelection or something like, I just don't want that because I do think our flags serve a purpose.
I think what I heard is we can hang flags for specific purposes. So I would, as a minimum, bare minimum, I would like to see the POW flag on Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Those are special days that do commemorate that. I would like to see it all the time. That's not my,
I'm gonna
not my
say,
problem.
and the 4th of July, Mother's Day and Father's Day, because
Well, but
POWs
that's
were
what I'm
mothers, fathers.
Yes, okay.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, it becomes
That's it,
very,
correct.
very subjective, right? Anyway, I'm just looking at it from a very public safety focused mindset.
Well, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Would there be anybody upset from seeing the POW MIA flag all
Some
the
people-
time?
I mean, that's the thing. We don't
Said it
know.
out of-
That's,
I don't,
Yeah.
I don't.
One
I-
of my concerns is.
did you?
Like I said, I don't think it said it was coming from the of things about Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and moms clubs and that. Yeah, and I was told that, if we posted for one special interest group, we had to post for anybody who asked. And, in this absolutely hyper contentious society of special interest groups that has been created, frankly, in 40 years, all of a sudden. I want this district to say we stand for inclusion of everyone in our district. And we're not going to segregate out separate groups because then we'd end up with a jillion different flags. And I believe the state flag and the US flag encompass all those jillion different groups. But that said, having had friends in Vietnam and having had friends who lost friends in Vietnam, and frankly, it encompasses every single war and in reference and all the people who have given their all to this country. I could say that the POW flag is as inclusive as it gets because there's not one special interest group that hasn't been in our military and fought for this country. So I like the policy the way it is, and I would agree with the POW flag, but I didn't realize we don't have a district flag. I've been looking at that flagpole all along, and do we have a district flag? And it's up there, right?
It's up there sometimes,
Okay.
not all the time, but I'd like to see it up there all the time.
I'd like to see our district up
I
there
would
all the
too.
time because
I think it should be.
we serve the entire county and everybody in the county.
When the Corps of Engineers comes to do their study, I have a Corps of Engineers flag. We'll hang it so they can say, okay. Here's this Corps, they support us. And
Right.
I do have a Corps flag, but I hang it.
That's my issue.
Postcard.
There you go.
We've had some discussion. Are we gonna leave the policy as it's written, or do you wish a change? Are you ready for a vote?
Let's try it as it's written and see what happens.
All right, motion and second. Can we have a roll call, please?
President Mateusz,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Blumrat,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
I,
Commissioner Slater Carter.
Aye. Why do you let the men vote first?
She's
Just
going
talking about
this way.
special groups.
okay, we're going back to.
All right, now we have item 10, surface beach replenishment pilot project update and consultant Damnitz. continued E&E proposal consideration.
Yeah.
So that item was pulled by our fellow commissioners. May we have some
Yes,
discussion on this?
I have no problem with the request for the funds. I just wanted an opportunity to kind of talk about the process going forward. I mean, we've got all the permits that we need to do the project, but when you implement the project, there's probably, I assume, there's other permits that you may need for access to Surfers Beach for whatever plumbing pieces we need or other considerations or I'm assuming that we don't have carte blanche to start running out there with equipment and doing work.
Not right now.
Right. We do already have, permission from Caltrans, to be able to use the revetment area for our discharge pipes. And we're still working on nailing down staging areas, for equipment. But other than that, we've got all of the main permitting now complete, as the general manager said earlier. And we do plan on putting out an invitation for bid for construction in October.
Why
Strategically,
so late?
that's actually earlier because we're not going to start work until early spring of 2025. But
There's a season for dredging.
But,
Dredging, right?
no, I
and-
understand.
And
but
eelgrass.
We have the eelgrass issue that keeps popping up,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I just don't want us to get in a catch-22 again.
The eelgrass is, the plan's been approved and we have the permit to do it. Right before we start the project, we'll have to do another survey to specifically define exactly what will move and how it will be established. But the permit itself is already is done.
Okay. Well, we
But we
need,
won't know exactly what the project will be until right before the project begins.
when we actually do the dredging,
Put out the
RFP,
the invitation for bid, which is for construction.
okay.
Because our RFP was for design engineering and everything, and we've already completed all of that and the permitting. So now we just need to bring on an actual contractor to do the dredge work and then ultimately the moving of the sand as is planned onto Surfers Beach.
So would it be, sorry.
when we actually have that contractor actually gets out and puts in the plumbing to pump that sand on the Surfers Beach, do they have to close Surfers Beach or?
Yes.
I would assume so. I'm trying to visualize what that pipe is gonna look like and the
A
sand.
lot of the
moving.
sand will be
30 inch.
trucked and stored
Really?
because they'll move it over both by truck and by pumping, but a lot of it's gonna be trucked. Because they can't put it on the beach immediately.
Right.
The way the reconstruction of the beach is designed.
So can this pumping and stuff, sorry, Bill.
Oh, no, I'm just trying to visualize how this whole operation is gonna work,
I'm
that's all.
wondering if it can be done at night or at least during time, early in the morning after dawn, at times of low use of the
A
beach.
lot of it will be driven by the tides.
That makes sense. by
That
the
makes
time.
sense.
Okay, that does make sense.
So they will have to put in some like steel sheet pile dams around the beach so they can pump into, there's a big process. So, but part of my question is very similar, but from a more technical side. The thing to, again, and I know you guys have heard me say this before, this is a demonstration project. That's a really critical word for the Marine Sanctuary and for the permitting, for Coastal Commission and others. What's really important is that we're able to demonstrate something. If we don't take surveys before the winter beach disappears, then the spring, and then during construction, post-construction, you don't have any data to compare alongside. So I just want to make sure that wherever we're doing, we're taking the data needed to prove and to show something with this beach. What are we trying to show? We're trying to show we can do the process. That's not really anything to show. We've been putting in beaches for 50 years. What we want to show is, well, how long is that beach going to last? And you don't do that unless you know what that thing looks like before you put the sand in, monitoring along. Now, the Corps of Engineers regional sediment management program that's going to fund some of that. They're really only looking at the numerical modeling to help predict that. Okay, not in their minds, they're not looking at the surveys you would need all along the new constructed beach and then how that responds, how it moves, where's it going to go? Is it going to go past Marauder Road? What's it going to do? So that part of the plan, we just have to make sure that we have that in mind and we implement that. So I'm looking at probably before the winter season in end of October, November, that we do a survey. That would be kind of the post-summer. That's when the maximum sand on the beach would be in the October timeframe. November, when the big waves start, they'll start pulling that beach out off the shoreline and offshore a little bit. So then in the May timeframe is when that kind of is at its maximum, and then the summer waves start bringing sand back in. So you need to be able to monitor what that beach is going to do so that we can prove to these agencies, especially the Marine Sanctuary, that this makes sense. And if you put in X amount or 1 million yards or 500,000 yards, we have an idea what's going to happen in that material. So I just want to make sure that as we go forward, part of the process.
That's a very good point, and obviously, as you're suggesting.
And Brad can respond.
It is a pilot project, and the monitoring is a huge component of that. The monitoring of this smaller amount of sand. Nobody's expecting that this amount of sand is going to get us where we want to be. We're going to monitor the movement of this sand over a 5-year period is the plan. Now, if the board would like, I could have, we do have Brad Damitz as one of our consultants, but also ESA. We could have our consultants come back and give a full presentation to the board and update on exactly what the plan is for all of the monitoring.
Before we go any further on this, I would like to have a report as much as possible, at every meeting in the agenda, just for status updates, right? And because I've heard from people on the coast, they're excited about, the fact that we've got our fall permitting, but to have a timeline, I mean, it's great to talk about the timeline, but at least have something like a project management timeline. And I get that it is, just a guideline, but at least something so that people can see, where we might be on the timeline.
In our CIP update,
Yeah,
which I include on everyone, I do update that, and I do have in there the most updated information.
No,
which
I
now
know
is
that.
we
I know, but I'm
got all
talking
permitting
about,
done.
I'm talking about a standalone kind of thing,
Mhm.
right? So, because people aren't going to necessarily read, your CIP report, but if they may be interested in just this one topic,
Mhm.
and they should be able to easily access that information. And the timeline that I'm talking about is something that's a little more graphical,
Mhm.
rather than putting it in words, right?
Mhm.
Like,
For those
what
of us who don't like. to
well,
read
with the
much.
mural graph timeline, right? Something
Yeah.
similar to that. Even if it's an estimated timeline, right? Something. Because I think I want people to believe that this is happening, right? And that we were not the holdup. Because I think people think that we were still the holdup and we lost this grant money, whatever, right? When we weren't the holdup. And so right now, though, after we've gotten all the permits, the ball's kind of in our court in terms of how we move
Keeping
forward.
it pushing out.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
I'm hoping that we can keep a log or work with Caltrans to see what happens to the area impacted by the sand rebuild on Surfers Beach, and see what that does to the erosion under the highway or along that beach there. And the other is, I really like the idea of having information in our packets on an ongoing basis so that people get in the habit of coming to the Harbor District packets to get information, like on the murals or with Sea Hugger, or like on this sand replenishment project, so that we are more than, so that we're building our reputation as a good source of information. And I like having them in our agenda because then people will scroll through and see other items that might catch their interest. If we do it as a special link, that's all they look at. As opposed to, there's a, this is in the agenda, have fun.
And to approve item FN.
So second,
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Slater Carter. Aye. Commissioner Chang Corrali.
aye.
Oh, thank you. President Mateusz.
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
Commissioner Donrat.
Aye.
Now we're on item H, future agenda items. So I know that there's some future agenda items. Should we start with Commissioner Chang Corrali?
Yes, thank you. Yes, so we've talked about this today and I think in past meetings, but I would like to, on a future agenda item, the idea of creating a 501c3 for the Harbor District. And I want to keep it as broad as possible so that we can look at all the options, but my preference would be like a friends group specifically for the Harbor District. But I'm open to anything, and I think that we should look at as many options as possible for Pillar Point Harbor and Oyster Point Marina in South San Francisco.
With the caveat that we're not making a final decision on any of this, it's just
No.
we're collecting information.
Well, no, I want us to decide not what kind, but that you can actually move forward with looking at the different types and that we can do the research and have Trish look into.
Well, George and I have already started that, so we should just continue.
Well, I want to understand, the various options we have from a legal
We
standpoint.
have our topic, we'll discuss it.
Yeah.
Other commissioners, future agenda topics?
At the last special meeting we had a number of visitors here and they, in my mind, kind of raised two topics. One is parking, which seemed to be a hot topic, and the other was timing of our meeting. So I just wanted to feel out whether, is it an opportunity here to talk about the timing and location of our meetings to suit our business and the interests of the public? And number two, just to kind of look a little bit further, not to do a lot of detail on parking, but I am curious as how many parking places do we supply as a harbor district? And just my gut feeling is we provide a heck of a lot of parking and it suits the needs of the district. What everybody else was saying when they came here was they want parking for Surfers Beach or Sam's Chowder House or something else that the county might be doing that really is beyond kind of the boundary of what we are doing. So I just was looking more just for information about what kind of parking we have available ourselves.
I'd like included in that the amount of beach parking that's in Pacifica right there in Lindemar. Every time I go by there on a busy afternoon, it's packed. And yet Caltrans is talking about removing all the parking for Surfers Beach. And I find that is the closest comparable of what they should be building.
Like Linda, you mean the parking lot in Lindemar?
The Lindemar, yeah.
I'd like to see if there's interest in, even though it's not our direct problem, whether we want to be, good neighbors and maybe put together a workshop of all the concerned parties about beach parking. Whether we can get the county together. I think the lot that's just south of the light here, it's already a county park. Plenty of space. They may have to regrade things in there, but there's plenty of space for a large beach parking area there without impacting the coastal trail.
I mean, we're trying to get this on the agenda on the.
Right.
Yeah, so
we're just talking about.
We'll discuss whether we want to kind of be proactive and bring a team of all the community together to discuss that. So.
Yeah.
So we can have the discussion.
Leave it as broad as possible, except include a letter of support on the appeal to the Coastal Commission about Caltrans providing parking. I think the big issue with parking is always, and we spend a lot of money to maintain our parking area and to ensure it, and it's there to meet our functions. Surfers Beach is a state function. It's a state, I think it's a state beach or a Half Moon Bay.
Half Moon Bay
beach.
Beach.
Yeah, and they're doing not much.
All right. Agenda topics. Okay, yeah. Activities Committee.
Before we move forward, President Mateo, we brought up three. The idea of a brief on a 501c3, a brief on parking, and then discussion on the timing of our meetings. Is now that we've brought those up, it has to pass the board before we put it on the agenda. So we need.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of changing the time. We had good participation today. But the one I'd like, Activities Committee report and planning. And the other thing is, we had a lot of comment and presentation on our vegetation and landscaping. Is there any interest in satisfying the community with the non-native grasses or the native grasses?
Well, should we put that on as a future agenda? Is that what you're?
That's what he's writing down.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So, because reading in something in that report said that the landscaper had 6 months to try and work with us, make sure things are growing or whatever. So I don't know if they can redo that grass and those trees.
I would be willing to remove my request for a discussion of meeting times if that's something we want to just leave the way it is for now. So I'm fine with deleting that.
Our future agenda topic items are as follows.
501c3, parking, and then vegetation and landscaping at Surfers Beach restroom project.
I'll make a
And then
motion.
do we need the activity committee report and planning? Or that just, we can do an ad hoc on that or what?
We have, ad hoc committee has to meet, and we'll put, following that meeting, then we'll put.
I'll make a motion to approve those future agenda items to be on next month's agenda.
Yeah.
Next month's agenda.
Okay. To be clear, with regard to the landscaping at the restrooms, are we wanting to pay for the consultant, design engineering consultant, to come here and give an explanation of how we arrived at the, through public process of what the public wanted to see as far as a grassy knoll for people to be able to picnic on? Because that grassy area is the only part that is not native species. The rest of the lava rock and the plants that are within the lava rock area are native species.
All that will be part of the report we give the board.
Okay, and we want them to come up with options.
No, well, let's discuss it and we'll bring it.
But I need to just be able to tell the.
You and I will work on it.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
All right.
What are you reading?
Roll call on our future agenda items.
Commissioner Chang Crowley.
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter. President Matoush.
Aye.
Commissioner Donrat.
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
I'll move to adjourn at 11:54.
All right.
Yay.
Is there a second? Roll call to adjourn.
President Matoush.
Those words per second, I said.
President Matoush.
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
Commissioner Donrat.
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crowley.
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter.
Yes.
George, I gotta talk.
Yeah, we need to check.
Recording stopped.
I printed out